Hey guys, what is going on? My name is Kasande Chishimba and this is the Urban Sports Report. Making this video today to talk about the Sixers at the trade deadline. So, like most of you guys, Wednesday morning, woke up to go to work and it's like 5 something in the morning, whatever it is. I'm opening my eyes and, get up out of bed, look at my phone, and I see the Sixers have traded for Tobias Harris, Boban, and also Mike Scott from the Clippers, giving up Shamet, Muscala, Chandler, and a couple of picks, right? So then afterwards, Thursday comes, and then right before the trade deadline, they get rid of Fultz, they get Jonathan Simmons, and they also make a move to get James Ennis, right? So, okay, first things first, when I heard that we got Tobias Harris, I was thrilled about it. But then, and this is why I'm making this video, I have a theory and I have a question, and I want you guys to discuss it with me. Does the Tobias Harris trade mean that Jimmy Butler's days in Philadelphia are numbered? Okay, so when we first get him, and obviously when you acquire a player, the first thing that fans are looking at is, okay, who do we give up? What do we give up to get this player? So I'm looking at it like, man, we lost Shamet, so on, so on, so forth. And then I start to really, really think about it. I'm like, man, does this mean that Jimmy's out the door? Now, one of the first statements that Woj tweeted about was the fact that Elton Brand, his intention is to bring back both Harris and Jimmy Butler long term. And I think that's the right mentality. Of course, in February, of course, he's going to say that he didn't trade you. So, the idea is that, we want to keep you long term. But when I really started to think about it, I really believe that Elton Brand made this move to position himself to be able to phase out of Jimmy Butler. Now, I take Elton Brand at his word when he says that he does want it to work with everybody. I believe that this starting line that they have of Simmons, Redick, Butler, Tobias, and Joel, I really think that he wants it to work. But I also do believe that before the Tobias Harris trade, that Jimmy Butler had all of the leverage in the situation. And this is what I'm talking about. The Sixers were in a position where entering this season, if you looked at their assets, around the top of those assets were the Miami 2021 pick, Robert Covington, and Dario Saric. If you're just talking about league-wide value, Dario Saric and Robert Covington proved themselves over the last couple of years that they are NBA starters, NBA rotational players, and that they have a place in this league, right? So you trade Dario Saric and Robert Covington to acquire Jimmy Butler, who is on an expiring contract and set to become an unrestricted free agent come July 1, right? So given where the Sixers were, let's say rewind last week, the Sixers were in a situation where you do have full intention to re-sign Jimmy Butler. And I think what has happened is that over the last couple of months since Jimmy has been here, it's been mixed reviews, I would say. He's had moments where he's, truly Jimmy G, truly, Jimmy gets buckets. And he's had some moments where you're kind of like, man, he's turning 30. Do I really want to give him 5 years, $190 million? I don't think it's been overwhelmingly where everybody will consensusly say, yes, give Jimmy the max. And Jimmy Butler has made it clear he wants a max contract. So the Sixers are in a position where they can offer him the most money. And I do feel that before the Tobias Harris trade, if the Sixers walk into free agency in the same situation that they were a week ago, that Jimmy Butler has the leverage to really get what he wants from the team. Because if he does not get what he wants from the Sixers and he decides to go elsewhere, the Sixers are left without Jimmy, without Dario, without Robert Covington. And now you're not starting from scratch because you still do have Joel and Ben and JJ Redick, but still you're not in the position that you want to be, because if you trade 2 guys in Dario and Covington that you had contractual control over for so long, you don't want to give that up for renting a player for 6 months. So I think it was a scenario that, by all accounts, it seems as though, there were reports that came out about, Jimmy aggressively challenging Brett. And it seems like there have been more rumblings. I've seen stuff, and, all this is hearsay, right? From Chris Broussard and Jackie McMillan and a couple of other, Stephen A. Smith, that Jimmy Butler could still be rubbing people in the wrong way. We've been hearing reports that it's kind of more of the same. So it is a situation where it is possible that the Sixers could be looking at this experiment and feeling like, okay, it's kind of working, but it's not the best. And I feel like now they're in a situation where you trade for a guy like Tobias Harris, who is on his upside. He's in the middle of having his best season. He's 26 years old. He's more laid back. His personality fits the team better, it seems like. And you start to ask yourself, is it a situation where the Sixers, this is what I feel, this is what I honestly think is going to happen. I think that if things go, let's say they get to the conference finals, let's say Sixers, and let's say they get eliminated in 6 games in the conference finals, right? I think it's going to be a situation where come the off season, now that the Sixers have both Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler looking for contracts, I think that the Sixers and Elton Brand are going to lean towards signing Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. And I think they're going to extend Jimmy Butler a solid offer, but I do not think that it's going to be the same offer that they would have given him had they had no other option. Now, of course, you could say, well, the Sixers are going to have other options because you're going to have other free agents out there. But the difference is that the reason why the Sixers traded for these guys is so that they could be in a position where they have their bird rights and can offer them more money. Mind you, the Sixers' their biggest free agent acquisition in the past 30, 35 years is J.J. Redick. And last year, they swung and missed on Paul George and LeBron James, notably. So I think that Elton Brand has learned from that situation, from observation, and felt like, okay, the best way for us to have a chance at these top tier free agents is to bring them into the organization and be in a position where we can offer them the most. And I think that's a good strategy. So I really believe I could just really see it happening where the organization looks at it, Elton Brand looks at it, Brett Brown, who has his hands all over the organization. I think they're going to look at it and feel like Tobias Harris is a better fit. He's younger. His personality fits. His game fits. I could just really see, and I really think this is going to happen. I think that Jimmy Butler will not be a Sixer come the end of July, and I could see him staying. Like I don't feel like this 100%, but this is just something that I feel as though the writing is on the wall, and Jimmy Butler might be in a situation where players have egos. Players have egos. They want money, but they also have their egos too. And I feel like Jimmy wants to be in a situation where, think about it from this perspective, right? Jimmy Butler was in Chicago. He came up in Chicago, and he was a young guy on those Bulls teams with Tibbs, Derrick Rose, Luol Deng, Taj Gibson, Carlos Boozer, all those guys, right? That was their team, and Jimmy was the young guy on that team. And then he came up, Derrick Rose got injured, and then, he catapulted from there. Then things went, left with the front office and the team. He gets traded. So he gets traded back to Tibbs in Minnesota. But whose team is it? It's not Derrick Rose, excuse me. It's Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns' team. And now he has to add himself on to their team, right? And he has to acquiesce to what they want to do. And his whole situation there is adjusting to the young guys, right? So from the Bulls, he was coming up under them. He was the young guy. So then as now he's reached this all-star caliber, he gets traded. He has to adjust to these young guys that he might not be particularly fond of. And now he's in a situation where he has to go to the Sixers. Mind you, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, I think most people will agree, are better than Cat and Wiggs, but it's still a 29-year-old veteran having to mold himself and adjust his game to young guys. And I could really see a situation where him as a 29, 30-year-old is like, I want to be able to be in a situation where I am the definitive leader and the team is being molded around me as opposed to me being a complementary piece. And the Sixers might be in a situation where they see that as well. And it could be a situation that's mutually beneficial. And I hate to talk like this because this team is still trying to do a lot together. But I just think that the writing's on the wall, and that come mid-July when teams are signing, Tobias Harris will sign a 5-year deal with the Sixers, and Jimmy Butler will be somewhere else.